Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor at USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us. Jason, thank you for engineering. Kyle, thank you for joining me today.
Good morning, Vince.
Hey, so, Kyle, I thought we would talk about some tips from the book and whatever else you would like to share as, tips, encouragement, etc. Do you have anything on your mind before we start?
Oh, there's a lot of things on my mind right now, but a lot of it don't do with automotive.
Okay.
I'll tell you, my grandpa used to say, he'd ask, "How you doing this morning, Grandpa?" And he would say, "Well, son," he said, "I made love to your grandma, chopped a cord of wood, conquered Norway, and I'm ready for breakfast." So.
Okay.
All right.
So, one of the things I have on, today is going to be tips class, all kinds of tips. And some you may find directly useful, some you may find indirectly useful. But, let's start with this one. So, we have a number of trailers here at the farm that we pull things on. So we have some small trailers for, let's say we're going to go collect firewood around the farm. So we'll just take a 10-foot long by 6.5-foot wide trailer. And we'll just take that with us and we'll pull it behind a tractor. And our tractor has a ball on it to pull the hitch. And, let me just explain the parts of a hitch first. So let's say you have a car or a truck. The part that is, near the bumper, under the bumper of the rear of your truck or car, that's called the trailer hitch. Now, the trailer hitch has something called a receiver tube. Now, the receiver tube is that square tube that you put the ball mount into. The ball mount is that part that has the trailer ball attached to it. So, there is the trailer hitch that's bolted or welded and bolted to the frame of your vehicle. The receiver tube is that square tube. There's a hitch pin that goes through the receiver tube and locks in the ball mount. The ball mount is that piece of heavy steel that is square, and it slides into the receiver tube. The hitch pin goes in there. It's about a half inch or 5/8 inches, 5/8 of an inch in diameter. And there's a little locking clip that holds it on. Then you have the trailer ball, and then you have the trailer coupler. The trailer coupler is the part that goes over the ball and connects the trailer to the ball mount with the trailer ball. Okay, so that being said, we've mentioned, Kyle and I have talked about this in the past, but one of the things I wanted to re-mention is that whenever we mount a trailer hitch or connect a trailer hitch to either a tractor or a truck, we always wipe off the trailer ball, get all the grease, dirt, etc. off there because it's abrasive. If you have sand on there, sand is really, really hard, and it will wear out the surface of the trailer ball, and it will wear out the surface of the trailer coupler. Okay? And so we wipe out the inside surface of the trailer coupler where the ball connects and the trailer ball. Then we put a coat of grease on the trailer ball and lock it in place. That's how we mount a trailer. And the reason we do that is if you don't do that, the trailer coupler will wear and the trailer ball will wear, and then there'll be more play between the trailer ball and the trailer coupler. Now, with enough play, the trailer the trailer can actually become disconnected from the trailer ball. It can. And if it is not worn that much, what you will get is more play and more banging and a less pleasant ride by pulling that trailer if there's excess play. So those are my thoughts about the trailer ball lubrication and cleaning the ball. Kyle, any comments?
Yes. The other thing, especially if you live in a state that uses salt or calcium chloride on the roads, when you install the bar that goes into the hitch, you should either take and clean that out of there, spray something in there to clean it, get some kind of a rod or something back in there, or a little bit of sandpaper if it's rusty. Clean that up and try to get some grease on the tube that you're shoving into it before you put the pin through. And it's always a good idea to put a little bit of grease on that pin as well, because a cotter pin usually is what holds that in place, or a lock. Some of them you can put a lock on there, but I have literally in the last year, Vince, they make these, first of all, let me back up. They make these hitches that Vince is talking about for pickups that they come in different weight ratings. Some of them are extremely heavy duty, then just usually heavy duty, and then they actually make one for like little Subarus or, small cars that you're going to pull a very small trailer with or something. And a friend of mine had one on the back of his Subaru with the ball in it, and he was selling the car, and he didn't really want to let that little the receiver part go with the ball on it, the steel rod. He didn't really want to let that go with it because he had another car. But it was so rusted on there that we jacked the car up and had sprayed Power Blaster and the acetone with automatic transmission fluid in it. We had sprayed that, squirted it in there the best we could, and we beat on that thing with the hammer for probably half an hour straight, and it did not move. It was literally rusted, welded shut. That's something to think about if you're going to, if you leave the ball and on your vehicle, the little tube that goes into the hitch, if you leave that in there, make sure it's greased before you do. And it's, in my opinion, it's a really good idea. Sometimes on the other end of that, the tube that receives the balled hitch that you stick in and pin, there's an opening in the back of it. And if you can, I think it's a good idea to take some kind of cardboard or wood or something and cut it out and stuff it into the back of that to keep the salt and grime and stuff from flying up in there, because it just works its way like a capillary tube right up in through there and rusts everything. So that's my thought on that.
Okay. And here's something that we've noticed, that when trucks come into the shop, they usually have the trailer hitch on them, and they have the ball mount inside the receiver tube. And you can see that there's an enormous amount of slop, a lot of play between the ball mount, that square tube, and the receiver tube. And so when there's a lot of slop, that would be movement up, down, and left and right. You can just grab the ball mount and you can feel that extra play in there. That extra play translates into a hammering every time that you hit a bump or a bump or a little dip in the road or a pothole or a crack in the road. If it's a concrete road that has crack after crack after crack after crack from pouring the concrete, that translates into a hammering effect by the trailer onto the trailer ball, through the ball mount, through the slop and the hitch to the vehicle. And it causes excess wear. As a matter of fact, there are trailer hitches that have failed. They have literally cracked. The welds have broken, the tubes have cracked, etc., because of the hammering. So here's what we have done. We've seen a lot of slop, and we recommend to our customers here that they make a shim. What we do is we take a piece of aluminum flashing, like chimney flashing, and this is thin aluminum, roughly the thickness of, let's say, 3 sheets of paper. And we cut it to maybe 5-6 inches long, and we wrap it around the ball mount, where the pin goes through. We wrap it around really tightly, and we use a ball peen hammer, just tap, 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 and form it around that square ball mount. And then where the pin goes through, we use the rounded end of the ball peen hammer, and we tap, 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 and it will punch a hole right through the aluminum. So what we've done is we've wrapped a sheet of aluminum around the ball mount where it goes into the trailer hitch receiver tube. And that takes up the play that exists. Now, sometimes you need to wrap completely on all 4 sides of the ball mount, sometimes just 3 sides, sometimes just 2 sides. And then it lasts for years. So that's how we remove that slop in the receiver tube / ball mount connection. Any comments about that, Kyle?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Vince. You've mentioned that before, and that is just something people should don't let this go, because I saw a trailer one time that the hammering effect that you were talking about, it literally did break the ball mount going into the receiver hitch, and happened right at the bottom of the the hill, that about 2 miles from where I live. And the trailer just took off and luckily didn't hit nobody, just went right off the side of the road. But still had the ball stuck in, because it cracked on that ball mount, but it still had the ball attached to the trailer tongue. So this is a really serious thing. It can't happen.
And they make a wrench. The Chinese factory tool outlet sells them. And if you buy one of them, you're not going to be using it very often, but it sure is a handy thing to have. And this is a wrench that is designed for the 2 common size nuts that are used on the trailer balls that mount to the ball mount. Okay. So it's a long wrench. It's like 18 inches long, about $10 or $12. And it has its boxed end on both sides. And it's a great tool to have. So we have one of those. I don't like shopping at the Chinese factory tool outlet, but they've got one, and it works fine for us. So that's one other comment. If you don't have one of those, what we use is a really long pipe wrench. And I don't like that, or we have a big socket set, but a lot of people just don't have a socket that big for the trailer ball nut. So you might want to just buy that wrench, or if you don't have one, maybe someone passed down in your family a large pipe wrench, and you can use that as well. When we come back, I'd like to talk about trailers and what we found with relatively new trailers made with Chinese materials, and that will address the Vincent's 10% less theory. We'll be right back. So, class, if you look at the ball mount, you've seen those at the Chinese factory outlet, and you've seen them at lots of places. And when you look at those, if you're going to buy one, look at the opposite end from the ball. Now, some of them are square cut, so the tubing is like 2 inches square in most cases. That would be the size that most of you would be buying. And if you look at the end of the tube, opposite the end of the ball, you'll see that it's either cut straight or it's cut on a diagonal. If it's cut straight, they're using the correct amount of material, in my opinion. If it's cut on a diagonal, they have done that so they can save about 10% of the material of the square tube, but it's not as strong. And I don't like it. So I only buy the kinds that are square. So that's just one more thing that the Chinese do. And you'll find out that the ones that are diagonally cut are typically made in China, if not always made in China. Kyle, have you seen what I'm talking about, where they cut the square tube on a diagonal, the part that goes into the receiver tube?
Yeah, only on the newer ones.
That's right.
And I never did put that together though, Vince. But you're correct. That's exactly why they would do it. They're just trying to save maybe an inch of steel and turn it, squeeze every little nickel of profit out of it. Around here, Vince, I mean, everybody and their brother seems to have a trailer. So if you go to garage sales around here, I probably have 5 extra spare tubes that hold the ball, and I've got probably 2 different receiver hitches that'll go on 3/4 ton Chevy pickups, because that's pretty much all I use them for. They'll usually fit the 1/2 ton as well, if I remember correctly, but it's been a long time. But you can find those tubes, the real good American-made steel tubes with the ball on them most of the time. I bought many, many of them for anywhere from $2 to $5 for the whole thing. And you got them on every truck that I have has one of those on them. And I have probably 4 or 5 spares just for the heck of it, in case my daughter needs to borrow one, or my son-in-laws or stuff. They borrow them every once in a while. And so, yeah, I keep extras, and, for the price that you can buy them at a garage sale, it's worth just having extras. Clean them up. Sometimes they're a little rusty, and hit them with a wire brush and squirt some, put grease on them and put them I keep mine in kind of a milk crate, underneath my, in a place in my shop. But anyway, and balls too. I buy those balls, for the hitch, that'll be 1 7/8, 2 inch, 2.5. I think I've got one that's even bigger than that, 2 5/8 or something, if I remember correctly. I don't do much with the great big ones, because I don't really have any super large trailers anymore. But most all of my trailers that I do any pulling with, all 2 inch. So pretty much if I have a few, I've got probably 5 or 6 extras of them too. Just because I'm of the opinion, Vince, that if 2 is 1 and 1 is none, then 3 is better. So that's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And they come in class. So there's a class 1, class 2, 3, 4, 5. And so class 1 is the lightest duty. And class 2, 3, 4, 5, they're heavier duty. So class 1 is for a gross trailer weight of 2,000 pounds. And there's 2 ratings for these ball mounts. So there's the gross trailer weight. That's how much the trailer would weigh, not connected to the vehicle. And then there's the tongue weight, and that is how much is pushing down, the weight pushing down on the ball of the ball mount. And that would be the tongue weight. So, for example, a class 1 might be 2,000 pounds gross trailer weight, and tongue weight would be 200 pounds. Now, if you get to, let's say, a class 3, which would be, like a small mobile home kind of trailer, camping trailer, that might be a gross trailer weight of 8,000 pounds and the tongue weight of 800 pounds. So you need to get the right class ball mount for what you're towing. And you don't want one that is too light. You want, if anything, you want one that's heavier than what you're towing. And we'll talk, and the balls are rated the same way. We'll be right back. Kyle's with me, and we're talking about tips that you might be able to use right now or file away in your mind for use later. So I mentioned on the air that I bought a new truck, soon to be an antique, and it's a 2001 Chevy Silverado. And this truck came with a substandard trailer hitch, and basically it was the bumper. The bumper had a ball on it, and that's okay, if you just want to look at it. But if you actually want to use the trailer hitch to pull a trailer, you really need an under the bumper frame mounted hitch. And sometimes they're attached to the bumper if there's a reinforcing steel bar where you can't see it behind the bumper. And that's what Chevrolet does. So the first thing I did when I bought this new truck with over 250,000 miles on it, I bought a Class 5 heavy-duty, manufactured by General Motors trailer hitch. I bought it at the junkyard, and you can get it for $50. That's what I paid. And I put it on this particular pickup truck that I'm going to be driving as a daily driver for two reasons. One, I might be pulling something with it, but maybe not. But I wanted it for additional crash protection in case someone is texting while driving, or in case there is a Tesla car anywhere near me. I want to make sure that the rear of the vehicle has extra protection. So for $50, I'm getting more insurance to probably save my life in a rear end collision if some moron is not paying attention. So that's another reason why you might want to have a trailer hitch. And if you're going to get one, you might as well get the heaviest duty one that you can get, because they only weigh a few more pounds and they're much more substantial. Kyle, any thoughts? Absolutely.
You know, if the Tesla were to hit it hard enough, he'd probably be looking right up the tube of that ball hit of that receiver. It's interesting that you mentioned the class rating on the hitches. I was just out there about a month ago looking through the balls and the hitches that I have, and excuse me, the smallest one that I had was a 5,000 pound rating, because I look for that too, but I had forgotten about it. But that's true. But once you get stuff set up like Vince does, folks, it's like, this is part of preparedness, but like we've said on the air many times, it's a mindset. And whether, Vince is thinking in terms of, how hard is it if you absolutely needed it and you only had one truck? I mean, Vince probably has, more than a dog has fur. But anyway, a lot of people only have one or two trucks at the most. And if it's not set up for a hitch and you need it, then it's a lot of trouble, and you've got to go through and try to hurry up and get those things mounted up underneath there and bolted on and make sure they fit, and then wired, and all of the work that goes into it. But being prepared, just having it on there doesn't hurt you. It costs you very little, some time and trouble a little bit when you don't need it, a little bit. I kind of find it enjoyable fixing stuff like that. But anyway, being prepared and having it ready, just the peace of mind, knowing that, if your son or your son-in-law or something like that needs, or your daughter needs something moved, and she's got a trailer but no hitch on her car or something, you can drive over and hook up and go, rather than, having to try to scrounge around and call people that have their trucks already set up for pulling trailers. It's just being prepared in more ways than one. And it's just always, Vince and I both are a lot like that, very much the same. We always tend to take the what if approach. What if I need it for this, or what if my kids need it for that? And, I try to be prepared for that kind of stuff in every aspect of my life.
And class, if you look down on the ball of the ball mount, or if you're buying a ball from the store, they are stamped on the top face of the ball, and they're stamped with the rating in weight. So it might say 5,000 pounds. It might say 6,000 pounds. It might say 10,000 pounds. So make sure that ball that you buy is in sync with the rating of the hitch, and is in sync with the ball mount, and is in sync with the trailer that you're pulling. And all of them are stamped with their weight. So the trailer hitch is either stamped or has a label as to the tongue weight and the trailer weight, the gross trailer weight. The ball mount is stamped as well. The ball is stamped, and there's a label on the trailer as to how much it weighs. And not only that, there's more information on some of the labels of these trailers as to what the load or what the gross trailer weight is and what the wheels size should be from the manufacturer and what the tire size is. Now and the reason I'm telling you this is we bought a trailer, back in maybe 1989, 1990. And everything was right. The trailer was right. The weight was right. It had the right wheels on it. Had the right tires on it. Everything was right. We bought a used trailer from a farmer here in Missouri, and it was a couple years old. I think it's maybe a 2019, 2018, something like that. And it's a car hauler. And what that means is this is a trailer that has fenders, and it's low, and it has a dovetail in the back. So the trailer's flat, and then it tilts down in the back. And it has ramps that are in a compartment that you can slide out the ramps, attach the ramps to the back of the trailer, and you could drive a car or truck on this trailer. It's big enough to do that. Well, this particular trailer is made in the United States, and it's a fancy trailer. When I say fancy, I'm talking about a distinguishing characteristic that trailer resellers and manufacturers use to get you to buy their trailer. So this one has pinstriping. That's what I mean by fancy. So it's non-essential. I would never pay the $100 or so that they would probably upcharge, or maybe $200 for this fancy pinstriping, because it wears off anyway. But it's a fancy trailer, so they made it look great. But what they took out was the right size wheels. So the label says that it should have 6-inch wide wheels. It has 4.5-inch wide wheels. So the wheels are the wrong wheels. Now, who did that? Probably the dealer that bought these trailers, probably bought them without wheels and tires, and then mounted the wheels and tires on the trailer. So what he did was he put undersized wheels on the trailer, and he put undersized tires on the trailer. And the wheels that he put on are made in China, and the tires are made in China, and the tires have what I would consider 2/3 of the tread depth that they should have. So they're only 8/32 of an inch tread depth instead of, let's say, 12/32 of an inch tread depth. So the tires are also load range C instead of load range D. So that's how much weight they can carry. So this trailer is fine in all respects except for the wheels and tires. So what we did was we took the wheels and tires off and put the correct wheels and tires on. And there's a difference between the trailer tire rating and a truck or car tire rating. And so trailer tires are different. They're different because they are typically not radial. They're not radial tires. They're not radial because radials can't take the weight and the punishment that a trailer will deliver. And so they're called bias ply tires. They're stronger. There's more rolling resistance, so they don't get the fuel economy that you would get with the same size radial tire, but they're stronger. And they also have stronger sidewalls. So when you go around a curve, the tire may want to flip off the rim or off the wheel. Okay, so trailer tires are designed differently. So my advice to you is don't put car tires on your trailer. The next thing is, does it come with a spare tire and a wheel? Does it? And do you have the tools to change the tire? How many times have you seen a trailer on the side of the road and there's some guy or gal scratching their head wondering what to do next? Where are you going to get a spare tire? What do you do if you have a flat on the road? Do you call somebody and say, hey, listen, can you bring me a wheel and a tire and a lug nut wrench and a jack and a flare or two so I don't get hit while I change it? Or can you bring a truck that you can pull my trailer onto and take the trailer so we can have the tire repaired? Or do you have the tire fixed? What do you do? So what we do is we bring an inflated spare, the tools to change the tire, the jack, etc., the blocks to chock the trailer, and the lighting to warn people that we have a problem. That's what we do. But we make sure that our trailers and the hitch and the ball mount and the ball and the tires and the wheels are all rated for what we're doing. Kyle, any comments?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Vince. Make sure that that's true. Even brand new trailers. I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine was moving up here a few years ago. It's got to be about 10 years now. But he bought a very large. He had a big Dodge diesel pickup, and he bought a very large fifth wheel travel trailer. And it was a triple axle and 40 feet long, really big, had everything that they owned in it when they were moving up here. And they were coming from Texas at the time. And about Colorado, one of the tires blew, and one of the bearings went out of also, the reason the tire blew was because one of the bearings burnt up on one of the axles. And so it was a brand new trailer, so he got to looking at this, and the trailer, the ball thing for the fifth wheel where it attached right there said they were supposed to be, and he looked in his paperwork, and they were supposed to be 8,000-pound axles, and they were only 5,000-pound axles, come to find out. And there they were in Colorado, broke down, having to stay at a service station area where this guy would let him pull in. And he contacted the trailer guy that he bought the travel trailer from, and sure enough, they sent pictures back and forth. But it took them a week to. This is back in the good old days. It took him a week to get them to ship, and he had to do the work himself, swap out all three of those axles on that trailer to put 8,000-pound axles back under it.
Yeah, we're going into a break. Now think about this, class. You're surrounded by Teslas and Chinese parts. So this trailer we bought was just used a couple times, and it's got a pressure-treated wood deck. It's 18 feet long, but 16 feet of it are flat, and then the last 2 feet in the back are tilted down. It's called a dovetail. So it has a 2-foot dovetail. And it has the ramps. And I'm looking at one, ours has a metal dovetail. They call it diamond plate steel. So it has like diamond shapes in it for, non-slip surface. And, so the deck on the trailer, 16 feet of it is wood, and, the last 2 feet that tilts down the dovetail is diamond plate steel. And, I think it was about $2,000 a couple years ago, and I think we paid maybe $1,600 for it used, and it was in terrific shape. I just looked up the same trailer on Craigslist, $3,450. So it went from around $2,000 to $3,450 in just a couple years. So price of steel is up, and what they're doing is they're using a lot of Chinese parts. And as Kyle was talking about the bearings, the first thing we did when we bought the trailer was jack up the wheels and feel the bearings to see if we were satisfied with how the bearings were adjusted. And the trailer that we bought has these grease fittings on the axle hubs. So there's a little rubber plastic plug that is in the center of the hub cap. Now, a hub cap is not a wheel cover. A wheel cover would be a large dish-shaped thing that would be on an older automobile, like from the 60s and 70s maybe, or a Cadillac. A hubcap is like 2 inches, or 2 1/4 inches, or 2 1/2 inches, and it just covers the axle, the end of the axle nut, the cotter pin, etc. Well, some of them, some of the nice axles have a grease fitting. So there's a rubber plug. You pop out the plug with your finger or a screwdriver, and you'll see there's a Zerk fitting in there, and you just put your grease gun in there, and you use what we use is that red full synthetic grease, high temperature grease, and we put like 10 or 20 pumps of the grease gun in there, and while we're spinning the wheel on a jack or jack stand, so that grease gets all over the bearings, and then we put the cap back on, that rubber cap, and then we do the next wheel. And when it's on the ground, we check the lug nuts for torque, and we use a torque wrench, and we torque them down to about 100 foot-pounds of torque. And we do that because we don't know what the last guy did. And even if it's a brand new trailer, we don't know how it was manufactured. So we check everything, because the last thing we want to do is put a load on the trailer and have a failure because of a wheel bearing, a tire, a wheel, a lug nut, etc. Kyle?
Yeah, that's very good thinking, Vince. My car hauler is not the dovetail type. It does have the ramps with a steel lip on the back of it that the ramps slide onto. And it's also 18 feet long, but it does not have the dovetail. I bought that about, 10 years ago. An old man was retiring, and it's got the same kind of a deck, weather-treated, pressure-treated wood. And I paid $1,200 for it even back then, back in the good old days, but it's not nearly as nice as the one you're talking about. The dovetail is extremely handy. That's just, if you can buy a flatbed trailer that is a car hauler, I suggest if you can get one with the dovetail, because that's real handy.
It's good. It's good and bad, because it's really handy for driving up a low ground clearance vehicle. It really is. But it also hangs down lower in the back than a non-dovetail trailer. So, if you're going into a parking lot that has a rise to it, or a dip and then a rise, you could, slam the bottom of the trailer into the pavement or the driveway. So there's pros and cons to it. But it works for us because, we have, it's amazing. There are a bunch of customers. We do work for fleets, and they have fleet vehicles that they use all the time. And when they break down, we go pick them up. And so this trailer is actually paying for itself, in that kind of use. But it's a really handy thing to have. And it's, class, you might want to consider getting some kind of a trailer, a general purpose utility trailer, one that you can put a car or a truck on, one you can haul furniture on, look at them. But there's something that's really interesting that I found, that the new trailers have a crank up jack in the front. Most trailers have a jack in the front. You crank it up. But the new trailers put it right where, if you jack up the trailer and you want to lower your tailgate of your pickup truck, your tailgate will slam into the jack, and you will damage the finish of your tailgate because some moron doesn't know where to put the jack. And I'm not kidding. Kyle, have you seen that?
I've seen that. Yep. I got another thought on that very thing with trailers when we come back.
Okay, class. So we're talking about trailers, we're talking about tips, and maybe we'll get into bed boxes. How do you pick a bed box for your pickup truck? I'll tell you what I went through when we come back. Kyle's with me, and we're talking about tips that you can use right now and tips that you can file away for use later. Kyle, you and I were talking about the positioning of trailer jacks, where they are welded or bolted on, and the newer trailers seem to have the trailer jack in exactly the wrong position, so that when you open up your tailgate on your pickup truck, it will slam right into that trailer jack in the front of the trailer and damage your finish on the outside of your tailgate. Please continue.
Yeah. Mine actually is set up so that it just barely clears. I don't know about yours, but mine literally, if it's straight, it just barely clears. There's a couple other things on trailers, folks, that you probably want to bear in the back of your mind. Like Vince has that dovetail drop in the back of his. Now that's really handy if you're going to just pretty much haul cars. Like he said, the drawback to it is it will catch. It sits lower, and so on your truck that you have, if you have a dovetail type, sometimes you will want to buy the ball hitch, the tube that goes into your receiver that has a drop on it. It'll actually drop down. They can drop down, anywhere from 2 inches to 8 inches if you some of these great big tall, even more maybe for some of these great big tall trucks. But you really want to make sure that the height, the drop down of the ball is at the correct level so that your trailer rides level when you're pulling it. Another drawback to the dovetail is, like for my trailer, which is straight all the way, I built 2-foot sideboards to go all the way around the trailer, and I built another sideboard to fit up against the back that I kind of put screws in to hold, and I will go get my firewood with it. It's more difficult to do that with a dovetail type trailer. They usually don't have sideboards on them that go all the way around, because my sideboards are 2 feet high. And so when I go get wood, I'll take my truck, which has sideboards on it, and then the trailer with sideboards on it, and I can bring back home, usually about 2.5 cord of wood total, in one trip if I need to. So there's just another thought on trailers. And the other thing that you might want to consider is if you are carrying heavy loads, they do make it's called an equalizer hitch, and it mounts to your hitch, and it'll mount to your truck, and it mounts to the trailer. And what it does is it kind of balances the weight and puts more weight on the front of your truck and rather than just putting all the weight on the tongue. And that's a little bit complicated. I understand. I'm throwing that out there for people just to look up and figure out for themselves that you can mount this on there if you need to. I've only really, other than using my trailer, the equalizer hitch for travel trailers, I've only had to use it one time, and I was pulling a friend of mine's big 3/4 ton heavy duty Ford with a plow on the front of it, but it had so much weight, and it was a diesel, so it was extremely heavy. And I put an equalizer hitch on it because it was so incredibly heavy that I wanted to equalize the weight on the pickup. Vince?
Yeah, and what Kyle's saying about the ball mount drop, okay? What that means is how much lower will the ball be from the receiver tube on the trailer hitch, on the vehicle? How much lower? So usually they're around no drop, 2-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, and maybe 8-inch drop. And what we do before we hook up a trailer, we make sure that the truck tires are at the proper inflation. And the more inflation that you have in your tires, the greater the load capacity of the tire. But you don't want to exceed what the tire is rated for. Okay, so it'll say on the sidewall of the tire how many pounds per square inch that the truck tire is rated for, and the trailer tires, same thing. Now, the higher the inflation, the less flexing that the tires will do as the tire rotates where it contacts the ground. If it's a real hot day, the tire will pick up heat from a black road, blacktop, because it can be over 100 degrees. So the tire will get warm as it contacts the road. Also, the tire gets warm as the tire itself flexes, where it deforms when it contacts the road. So it is round until it hits the road, then it becomes flat where it contacts the road, then it returns back to round. So it keeps flexing with each revolution. That revolution causes internal friction in the tire, and that heats up the tire. So you'll have less friction internal to the tire with more air, but do not exceed the tire manufacturer's maximum pressure per square inch. And you want to check those tires when they are cold. That means that the vehicle has not been driven, the trailer has not been driven, the tires are not in the sun, and that's when you check the cold tire pressure. So it's been sitting a couple hours, at least it's not in the sun, and the tires have a chance to become acclimated to the ambient temperature outside, rather than being heated by the sun. So that's important too. So what we do is we make sure that the truck tires are at the pressure that we want, front and rear of the truck, that the trailer tires are at the pressure, typically maximum inflation pressure rated for the trailer tires. Then when we attach the trailer to the truck, we put it on a level surface and we look at it and make sure that the drop of the trailer hitch and trailer is not such that the nose of the trailer is pointing down or up. Okay. Maybe pointing up a little bit. Then when we put the load on the trailer, we want that trailer to be level. And we don't want the truck to be, the rear of the truck to be pointing, pushed down too much and the front looking like we're going to Florida. So we want the truck to be quite level. We want the trailer to be level when it's loaded. Okay. That's what you want. That's the proper way to do it. So typically the way we do it here at the farm, let's say we're going to put a tractor on our trailer. After we make sure that the vehicle and the trailer are on a level surface, one person will stand off to the side while another person drives the tractor onto the trailer. And as you drive more and more forward on the trailer, you'll push down harder and harder on the rear of the truck, on the trailer hitch. So you don't want to put too much weight on the truck, but you want to have enough weight, a couple 100 pounds worth of weight from the trailer on the truck so that the trailer doesn't pop off the trailer ball. Okay? That's what we do. So it usually takes two people. And after a while, we know exactly where to put the tractor, which is a pretty heavy load on any trailer. Kyle, any comments?
Nope, that's exactly what I was saying, Vince. Right on the money. You want that thing riding level.
Right.
You will find that, and the only other thing with buying a trailer is, I've got a couple of more suggestions. One is that you buy a tandem axle trailer. I don't care pretty much what you're doing, even if it's a little 14-foot trailer. I don't really like single axle trailers. All of my trailers are, unless I've got a couple of trash trailers that are just like pickup boxes, but any trailer that I'm going to use to haul anything of any consequence, I want to have two axles. I want four tires on the ground. They ride better, and it gives you, if you do have a blowout on one of the tires for some reason, sometimes you can keep going far enough to get off of the road, especially if there's no turnoffs or anything, and you've got to do something. The other thing is to really bear in mind with trailers is you want most of your weight forward on the front of the trailer. You do not want the heavy weight on the back of your trailer. If you've ever seen these trailers going down the road and they start fishtailing and jumping all over, that's because the weight distribution on the trailer is not correct. They put way too much weight in the back of the trailer rather than having it forward toward the tongue. Go ahead. Correct.
Absolutely correct. And so that leads us to trailer brakes. So all trailers don't have trailer brakes. Some do. And some trailers have, as Kyle mentioned, two axles. Two axles means you have two wheels on each axle, one on the left side of the trailer, one on the right. If you have two axles, you have two wheels and tires on the left and two on the right. Now, sometimes trailers come with trailer brakes. Now, typically, a two-axle trailer will come with trailer brakes. And you may even find on Craigslist that it's listed that the trailer that you're looking at has trailer brakes. And it can be brand new. But that doesn't mean that both axles have brakes. It may be just one of the two axles has brakes. Now, that's not as good as both axles having brakes. Now, think of it like this. Your car has brakes on all four wheels. All four wheels. The front axles and the rear. That's the ideal setup. But keep in mind when you look at a trailer that you may find that it says, complete with electric trailer brakes. But it may not be on both axles. So, word to the wise, both axles with brakes is the best way to go if you have two axles, but it's more expensive. And there's more maintenance. I like the trailers that have brakes on all wheels. I really do. And you can repair them. You can put, new brake shoes on. You can put new actuators on, and you can maintain it yourself. You actually can. There's no question about it. You just need to, learn how. And all this information is on YouTube. The trailers come with a safety chain, a set of safety chains. That's 2 safety chains. And what I do is I crisscross them. So if there is a chain on the left side of the trailer coupler, I mount it to the right side of the hitch. So I crisscross them in the middle. And that is typically the preferred way of doing it. If the chain is too long, what you can do is just put a couple twists in the chain and take up some of that extra slack so that the chain does not drag on the road. You need to have enough slack so that you can turn the truck and the trailer, but you don't want too much slack so that the chain drags. Kyle, any comments?
No, absolutely correct. I was going to say exactly the same thing.
Okay. And if your hitch has holes in it for your safety chains, and the safety chain hook won't fit, you can get D-links. The links that I've been talking about are called quick links. That's the official name for them. And these are like an elongated O made out of steel. Sometimes they're 3/16 of an inch. Those would be the thin ones. Then 3/8 of an inch, or 5/16 of an inch. Okay. And what they have is a long nut that you can unscrew on one side, and that creates an opening where you can put that through let's say a link of a chain, etc., and then screw that long nut back on, and it closes the circle so that it makes a link. Well, I have those installed in the bed of my pickup truck in the front because I can't always put a tie strap in there easily. So I have these quick links semi-permanently installed, and I have them on the trailer hitch as well. So if the hook from the trailer chain doesn't fit properly on the trailer hitch, I have these quick links that it will fit in. So that's one use. Kyle, do you use those quick links as well?
No, Vince, I don't. Pretty much all of my trailers, the pickup and hookups that I have, I've seen them, and I've got them actually in my shop, but I've never really had need of them. Pretty much all of my hooks match the trailer hitches, and I tend to hook mine so that just a little thought here on how you would hook these up. So, like Vince said, you've got this chain that is attached to your trailer, and it's got a hook at the other end. At least mine does, and every one I've ever had does. And you can either look at putting those in front ways, or you can turn them around and hook them from the back side, kind of. It's a different way of hooking them. I tend to hook mine backwards on the back side of things so that they tend to, if you're bouncing or anything like that, they have a tendency to hold better. That's just one little thought that I've got on that. But no, I don't really need. Yeah. I haven't used the quick links. I've got them, but I haven't had to use them. It's just one of those things that, why, if you can spend your money, the stimulus money and all of this any of the other spare money you've got, and you can either buy a 80-inch TV or you can buy a flatbed trailer, a tandem axle flatbed trailer. Why not have something that, in case the times get hard, you have the ability to be able to help somebody out or have something useful that will actually potentially make you some money. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And if you have a trailer, you have these ratchet straps, and they come in all different thicknesses and ratings and colors. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that, we keep about eight ratchet strap sets in each truck. And we have a toolbox on the back bed of each truck. And I'd like to talk about that in a second. But when we're talking about ratchet straps, if you keep them nice and flat, and no twists in them, and you're going down the road, they are going to vibrate and oscillate, and they may even break from the rapid oscillation. So you think about it like this. If you have a piece of metal and you bend it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you can break it in half. Okay. Well, the same, just like a pop top on a can of, on a beverage can. If you rock it back and forth, the metal will fatigue and it'll break off. Well, same thing happens with these nylon ratchet, straps. So if you put a couple twists, just a couple. Now, I'm not talking about knots. I'm just making it less pleasant to look at. It will be less likely to vibrate in 40, 50, 60 mile an hour wind. Kyle, have you done that as well?
Yep, exactly, Vince. It's like you said, it's kind of funny, how many things you and I have done that are that come to the same conclusion. It does, for my sake, it does depend for me. Sometimes I don't keep that many straps in each truck. I will have 2 small ones and 2 large ones in my pickup truck. Looks like we're going into a break. I'll finish this on the other side.
Yeah, we're going into a break. And class, we'll talk about ratchet straps and knots if it breaks or wears. We'll talk about what that does to the strength of the ratchet strap when we come back as well. Kyle's with us, and I really appreciate your wealth of knowledge, Kyle. We'll be right back. Kyle's with us in the front of the classroom, and we're talking about trailers, tires, bearings, and ratchet straps. Kyle, do you have a comment or comments about ratchet straps?
Yeah. So with ratchet straps and your trailer, what I have found is if your trailer's real long and you're using ratchet straps, say 3 or 4 of them along the trailer, that twist that you put in the ratchet strap, keeping it from vibrating so badly, is pretty critical. But what I have found is sometimes if I'm putting something, say, in the bed of my pickup, and it's not going up, it is not extending above the bed of the pickup, but I'm just kind of using the stake pockets in the side of the truck and going over whatever it is. And if it's below the height of the cab of the truck, most of the time I won't worry about putting that twist in there because it's kind of protected from the wind and it won't do very much vibration. But folks, these are just little tricks of the trade, learning how to do this. The other thing that I would highly suggest is that you carry rope. If you're going to travel with a trailer or you're going anywhere, make sure you've got, I carry in my pickup, literally, other than the ratchet straps, I probably have one rope that's probably 50 feet long, and it's about an inch in diameter. And I carry another rope that's about ½ inch in diameter that's a heavily braided, well-designed rope that's a real heavy abrasion-resistant rope. And I got about 50 feet of it. And I carry about 2 other ropes that are in this, that are sort of the 3/8 nylon type rope that I use. And one of the knots, you can look this up on YouTube, that you should really learn, especially attaching trailers and stuff, is called the trucker's knot. And I won't go into how to do it, but you can look that up on YouTube. And the trucker's knot is just incredibly handy to have if you're tying something down with rope. Okay, Vince?
Okay, and the ratchet straps don't seem to lose their strength if you put a twist or 2 or 3 or 5 in them. But if you put a knot, let's say the ratchet strap breaks, the strap breaks itself, strap itself breaks, and you tie it back together with whatever kind of knot you use. The strength of that strap seems to be about 50% or less strong than it was before the knot was put in. I can't explain exactly why that is, other than the fact that those microfilaments are now different lengths because of the knot. That's the only thing that I can think of that would explain why a knotted ratchet strap is nowhere near as strong as one that doesn't have knots in it. Okay? So that's a significant consideration. Now, if you put a good knot in it, where does it break? Well, it doesn't seem to break at the knot. It seems to break at where the ratchet is. And I believe all of this ties back to the filaments. Those microfilaments are at different lengths than they were when they were first manufactured. You can buy a toe strap, and we try to keep one of these in every one of our toolboxes in each truck. And a toe strap is like a ratchet strap. It's heavier. It's about 2 inches rather than 1.25 inches or so. It's much heavier, and they have hooks on the end. And the hooks have a keeper that will keep the hook in place until you break that little keeper. But these are forged hooks. And what we do is we use them a lot around the farm. So if I want to move a vehicle that doesn't run, I will hook up to the correct location on the vehicle I'm going to pull. I'll attach it to my truck or a tractor, and I'll pull that vehicle or piece of equipment wherever I want. You can buy them at Harbor Freight, and they're, a little over $10. I mean, maybe $12. And they have different strengths. They're different ratings for, when they'll break. Now, you have to be really careful, because if you end up breaking one of these things, it's going to be like a whip. Okay, so if this thing breaks, all the force that you're pulling against this strap, where it breaks, it's going to fly back in each direction. It'll fly back toward the towing vehicle and fly back toward the towed vehicle, depending on where it breaks. And it can kill you. So you need to make absolutely sure that the strap that you're using is of sufficient strength not to break. Now, a lot of people use chains, and we use chains as well. Now, the problem with the chain is they don't stretch. They don't take up the slack, and there's much more banging between the equipment you're towing and the towing equipment with a chain than with a strap. So we use both, and we are really careful to stay out of the way of one of these straps breaking, should it break. Kyle, any comments about that?
Yep, absolutely. And some people will use cable. They will have cable that they have wound up, that the hook around things with an eye in them on either end. That's the same kind of a thing. If you got cable stretched out and it breaks, it's just like Vince said, it's going to come back at both directions, hot and heavy. I know of a guy that literally pulled his trailer, and he tried to he was pulling it with a cable, pulling another car with his car, and the cable got hooked around something, but it was too tight, and he was in sand, and he could not back up. If he tried to back up, he was sinking in the sand, and so he figured his trailer, the cable between the car he was pulling and the truck that he was pulling it with had got caught on something and was at an angle. And so he literally tried to he was a very strong guy and pushed that cable off of the root where he had got hooked, and that cable snapped back so hard that it knocked his feet out from under him, and he's a big guy, strong, knocked the feet out from under him, and his face landed on the cable, and didn't break his nose, but it gave him 2 black eyes because his face went right down on that cable. Happened to hit just right, and he looked like a raccoon, literally 2 bad black eyes where it had hit his face. So this is really serious stuff, especially the straps. Chain doesn't usually snap back like that bad, but the straps will, and so will cable. So just stuff to know and be aware of, if you're pulling things out or, logging or doing stuff like that. Just stay away from those things, get away from them so that you don't get hit if something were to break. Always think in the what if, like I was saying before, what if this breaks? What if, this cable snaps off of one end? What's going to happen? That kind of thing.
Well, let's put an exclamation point on this, Kyle. So you've all seen television shows that have a jet landing on an aircraft carrier, right? And so there's a tail hook on the jet, and it drags down just at the time of landing, and there's an aircraft cable stretched across the landing surface of the aircraft carrier. So the tail hook catches this aircraft cable. It's the same kind of design cable that is used for these winches that are on four-wheelers, etc. It's called aircraft cable, and it's all kinds of thicknesses, from really thin to really substantial. Well, the stress on that cable from the aircraft landing, the jet landing on the aircraft carrier, is so significant that they only use that cable one time, and then they throw it overboard into the sea. So the bottom of the sea is lined with these aircraft cables that have been used once each time a jet lands on an aircraft carrier. So you really need to be careful if you see these aircraft cables and they've got like 1 or 2 or 5 of the steel wires broken, and they break. You got to be really careful with using that for a significant load. All right. So that was one other topic. And Kyle, do you want to move on to truck toolboxes? Do you want to talk about those?
Sure, you bet.
Okay. All right. So I bought my new soon-to-be antique pickup truck, and it did not come with a toolbox. And I really like having what I need with me when I need it. So I like having one of those aluminum boxes on the back of the pickup truck, right against the front part of the box where the rear window is. And there are all kinds of designs. You can get them in aluminum. You can get them in natural finish clear coat aluminum. You can get them in black painted aluminum. You can get them in steel. You can get them in plastic. And you can get them with one big lid, or you can get them with a hinged lid that has 2 halves. And the hinge is in the middle, and you can open up half of the lid from one side of the truck, and you walk around to the other side of the pickup truck, and you can open up the other half. And then there are deep ones, and there are shallow ones. So the deep ones can hold more, but you got to go deeper. When you go to pick something out of it, it's deeper down, harder to get to. And if you want to put something long in the bed of your pickup truck, well, your darn toolbox is in the way. So there are all kinds of compromises that have to be considered when you buy one of these toolboxes. And so I wanted one, and it had to be perfect or I wouldn't be satisfied. Now, the best brand that we have ever found is made by a company called Weather Guard. They are top of the line, and they are darn expensive. So we have one of those that we bought used, but a used one is like $250 or $300 if you can get a good deal on one. That's Weather Guard. If you want one that is a lot more reasonably priced that's used, which is what I got. I have 2 trucks, and I wanted the same one. I didn't want to have a different toolbox on each truck. I want to have the same exact one. So, you look up on Craigslist, you look up, and you also look up on websites for the new ones, and you look at the specifications, and you look at Craftsman, and boy, do they look good. And then you read the reviews that the welds break, they leak when it rains, they are not square, and you put something heavy in it and it falls through the bottom. So that's Craftsman. Now that's the new Craftsman. That's the new and improved Craftsman. The old Craftsman, if they made them, wouldn't be like that. But you'd have to find one that would be 40 years old. But I don't even know if they made these kind of toolboxes in aluminum 40 years ago. So I ended up buying what I thought was the absolute best compromise, and I have two of them. And they're made by a company, I believe, called Delta, but it doesn't have a Delta label on it. It says DeWalt. And they are fabulous. They don't leak in the rain. But when we bought them, they didn't come with keys. We'll talk about that, and I'm sure Kyle has a ton of comments when we come back for the last segment. We're talking. So at the farm, we have two brands of toolboxes. One is WeatherGuard. I believe our son bought one for $250, which I think is an enormous amount of money for a used toolbox. But a brand new one right now at Home Depot is $770 for that toolbox, plus tax. So it's over $800 with tax. And he got it in like great condition. So I think it's an enormous amount of money. I didn't spend anywhere near that. I bought DeWalt, which would be a step down from WeatherGuard. DeWalt doesn't make them anymore, or Delta doesn't make them for DeWalt anymore. And I paid $50 for one and $80 for the other. But they came without keys. So what do you do for keys? Well, you go to eBay, and you can find the lock number, usually on the inside lid of the toolbox. There'll be some 3-digit number typically. And you can go to eBay, and you can type in truck toolbox key, and even type in the number. And some of the numbers are imprinted on the ring where the key goes into the lock cylinder. You can see it from the outside of the toolbox. So if you don't have a key, you can buy it on eBay for less than $10 shipped. That's a lot of money for a key, but you can't make it yourself. So a locksmith is typically the guy selling them on eBay. Kyle, any comments about all of that?
Sure, you bet. So, again, I'm going to kind of blow your mind. I was at a garage sale a few years ago, and a lady had a WeatherGuard truck toolbox there, but somebody, her husband or son or somebody, had painted it dark blue. And I could see, you could barely make out the WeatherGuard little emblem on the side. But anyway, they just wanted it had some scratches in it, but it had keys, and they wanted $20 for it. And so I snagged it, and I've still got that. But I have come to a conclusion on truck toolboxes. I like the type that sit completely inside the bed, and I will take 4 by 4 4-inch by 4-inch pressure treated posts, and I'll set them down. And if I'm going to anchor it down, I'm going to anchor it if I'm going to drill holes and mount them to the bottom of the bed, I'm going to drill holes down through the 4x4 and go down into the bed and use longer bolts and bolt them down that way to make them secure. But the reason I like the type that sit completely inside the bed of the pickup is because I have toppers for a lot of my trucks. And if I'm going to be traveling or going any long distance where I'm going to want things to be secure, so to speak, I will I'll put a topper on there and clamp it down. But if you've got the truck toolbox that sticks up over the edge of the bed of the truck, you can't put a topper over the top of your bed of your truck. Vince?
You know, every time we do this, Kyle, it takes me like 2 weeks to recover from hearing about these good deals that you get. $20.
I couldn't believe it either. You know, I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. But, and actually, Vince, I'm going to tell you something that's funny. Inside this toolbox, there was a gallon of, antifreeze and a gallon of hydraulic oil that was sitting inside this toolbox when I got it. And
that's
they
worth
were
more than 20.
The antifreeze was brand new. The hydraulic oil had about 3/4 of a gallon in it. I couldn't believe it.
Wow. Well, those are great deals. I don't know how you do it. But there's nothing like that around here. Nothing in terms of, those kinds of good deals. But, for me, getting a DeWalt, I was really happy with the DeWalt. I love it. And, there's two ways of mounting it, class. You can mount the way Kyle does. If it's one that, sits on the, edges of the side edges of the truck bed, as mine do. There are two ways that you can mount them. And you'll have to drill a hole in each side of the, inside of the toolbox. And there's a bolt that goes through that hole. And then you can get what's called a J hook, which is shaped like the letter J, or you can get one that's shaped like the letter U. And I really like the ones that are shaped like the letter U. And they cost about 10% more for the U-shaped, clamps for the bed boxes than the J hook style. And, they're great. And you get them on eBay too. And I think maybe they were $13 or $14 shipped. So, of course, it's all made in China. But they work really well. Actually both of them work fine, but I really like the U-shaped ones better. And what I do is I take the inner tube, we don't throw anything out, as you know. And Kyle doesn't either. So we take, used inner tubes from tires that have, gone flat and you can't fix the tubes anymore. And they cut a section out and I put that under the edge of the toolbox that's going to sit on the bed box in the truck, so I don't mar up the paint between the toolbox and the bed of the truck. Kyle, you got 15 seconds. Any final comments?
Nope, you're doing great, Vince. I sure do enjoy all of your innovations and stuff you come up with. It's great.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I recover from these good deals you get, let's do it again.
You bet. Anytime.
Kyle, you are a master at finding great buys and useful tools.